Think about this for a second. Before we had empires, before we could even write things down, before we even figured out how to use metal, we had cheese. It's an incredible story, really, of how a total accident turned into one of our most beloved foods.
So how did we get from just trying to keep some sour milk from going bad to, well, everything we have today? I mean, think of the thousands of different cheeses out there, from a super sharp cheddar to a creamy, dreamy brie. It's a wild journey, so let's dive in.
Okay, so for our Neolithic ancestors, milk was a huge deal, a total game changer, packed with all these great nutrients. But, there were a couple of big problems. First, it goes bad, fast. And second, a lot of adults back then couldn't actually digest the lactose in it. But then, cheese comes along and solves both problems in one brilliant move. It basically locks in all the good stuff, the fat and the protein, into a form you can carry around and that lasts for ages. And crucially, the whole cheese-making process gets rid of most of that lactose. It was basically a nutritional superpower for early farmers.
And you know what's wild? The basic process they stumbled upon is actually super simple. You take some more milk, let it sour, and what happens? It separates into these solid clumps. Those are the curds, and this leftover liquid, which we call whey. All you have to do is drain off that whey, salt the curds, and boom, you've got a food that can last for months. Pretty much every single cheese we eat today starts with this fundamental idea.
All right, so here's the game plan for our journey. We're going to start with that happy accident of an invention, then travel through the ancient world, pop into the monasteries where things got really interesting, see how cheese took over the globe, and finally, we'll look at the modern scene, from big industry to the artisanal revival and what cheese means to us culturally.
Right, so first up, let's talk about that happy accident. You've got to understand, cheese wasn't just a tasty new snack. No, it was a survival tool. It literally allowed people to store calories and protein to get through harsh winters and famines. This was a huge deal for the growth of those early farming communities.
So from a simple survival food, cheese starts to play a much bigger role. Let's jump into the ancient world because this is where cheese goes from being something you make on the farm to a crucial commodity that helps build entire empires.
Just look at this timeline for a second. It really puts into perspective how long we've been doing this. We're talking about origins way back around 8000 BCE. We have physical proof from over 7,000 years ago. And then you've got written records from Mesopotamia. And by the time the Roman Empire rolls around, cheese is so important it's a standard issue ration for their soldiers. That's some serious staying power.
So you might be wondering, how on earth do we know people were making cheese that long ago? Well, the proof is literally in the pottery. Archaeologists found these amazing little pots with holes in them along the coast of Croatia. And when scientists analyzed them, they found traces of milk fats preserved right in the ceramic. It was the smoking gun. These were cheese strainers used to separate the curds from the whey. It's the earliest direct proof we have.
And this stuff wasn't just for eating. No, cheese was completely woven into the fabric of ancient societies. It was a major trade good across the Mediterranean. It played a part in religious ceremonies. And like we said, the Romans knew it was the perfect, high-energy food to fuel an army. It even shows up in epic poems. The Cyclops in Homer's Odyssey, yeah, he was a cheesemaker.
And check out this quote. It gives you such a vivid picture of one of the key preservation methods back then. This 15th century traveler is in Crete, describing what is basically ancient feta. He's just blown away seeing these massive warehouses where giant blocks of cheese are just floating in brine. It was the only way to keep it for a long time, a technique that goes back thousands of years.
Okay, so the Roman Empire falls, and you might think a lot of that knowledge would be lost. But for cheesemaking, it was actually the opposite. The craft didn't just survive, it got a major upgrade. And the epicenters of all this new innovation? Monasteries, dotted all across medieval Europe. Seriously, you should think of these monasteries as the R&D labs of the Middle Ages. The monks had a huge advantage. They could read and write. So they kept incredibly detailed records, they standardized recipes, and they built on generations of knowledge. They had time, they had patience, and they experimented with everything. Different milks, different aging paves, new ripening techniques, and the result was an absolute explosion of new kinds of cheese.
And, we're talking about the classics here. So many of the cheeses we know and love today came out of this period. Parmesan from Italy, that amazing blue-veined Roquefort from France, cheddar from England, Gouda, Gruyere, all of these icons were born or perfected in the medieval era, thanks in large part to those patient monks. They became the bedrock of their local food cultures.
All right, now let's talk about how cheese went global. Because as cheesemaking techniques spread around the world, People didn't just copy the recipes. No way. They adapted them. Every culture, with its own unique animals, climate, and traditions, put its own special twist on the process. And that's how one single food turned into 1,000 different things.
And the diversity is just incredible, right? I mean, look at these examples. You've got Baislag in Mongolia, these hard, sun-dried wedges made from yak's milk. Then in India, you have soft, mild paneer, which is made using lemon juice instead of rennet. Totally different textures, totally different flavors, each one a perfect mirror of its home.
This incredible variety really gets at a super important idea in the food world called terroir. It's this French concept that basically means a food tastes of a specific place. It's not just about the soil or the weather. It's about what the animals are eating, the specific grasses and flowers, and even the invisible stuff, like the unique local yeasts and molds in the air. It's that whole unique ecosystem that makes a Gruyere from a Swiss mountain taste completely different from a cheddar made in England.
And this quote just nails it. It talks about seeing all these flowers, violet, narcissus, thyme, on a Swiss pasture and wanting to get down and eat them yourself. Because that's exactly what the cows are doing. Those beautiful, fragrant flowers aren't just pretty scenery. They're ingredients. Their flavors get concentrated in the milk and end up creating that complex, nutty taste that makes Alpine cheese so special.
So these amazing regional cheeses started getting famous, and suddenly people wanted them far beyond their little local villages. This growing demand set the stage for the next big chapter in our story. With the Industrial Revolution, cheesemaking starts moving from the farm into the factory, and this creates a tension between mass production and tradition that, honestly, we're still grappling with today.
I mean, just try to wrap your head around this number. 22 billion kilograms. That's how much cheese the world makes every single year now. It's a staggering amount, and it shows you the sheer scale of modern industrial cheesemaking. It's a global industry focused on making a consistent product, and a lot of it. But it also makes you ask, what gets lost in that process?
But here's the cool part. In the last few decades, we've seen this really powerful counter-movement spring up, the artisanal cheese revival. It's a total pushback against that industrial uniformity. It's all about celebrating cheese that has character, personality, cheese that can be young or old, funky or fresh, sharp or mild. It's a return to the idea that cheese should be an expression of a place and the person who made it.
And that really brings us full circle to our final and maybe most important point. For so many cultures around the world, cheese isn't just something you eat. It's so much more than that. It's a symbol of their heritage, a massive source of pride. It's a huge part of their identity. This quote about Basque shepherds is just, wow. It perfectly illustrates this deep connection. For them, making their traditional mountain cheese involves so much skill, so much care, so much pride, that they actually think of the finished wheels of cheese as their children. It's not just a product. It embodies their history, their social life, everything about who they are.
So there you have it. From a simple survival hack to a profound cultural symbol, cheese has been on this incredible 10,000-year journey with us. Its story is really our story, a story of innovation, of adapting to our environment, and of our deep, deep connection to the land. Which leaves us with a pretty big question. In a world torn between global industry and a passion for local tradition, what does the next chapter for one of humanity's oldest foods even look like?